Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to our ongoing discussion dealing with our end of life journey before, during, and afterwards. My name is Susan Caperso, end of life doula, and I'd like to introduce you again to Lisa Strauss Lawrence. Hi,
Hi,
Lisa.
hi, Susan. Good to see you today.
You
So,
too.
I'm very pleased to have a guest today. He's our first guest in our YouTube series, Bill Solz. I'd like to tell you a little bit about him and why he's with us today. Bill Solz is a licensed clinical social worker and credentialed alcohol and substance abuse counselor who was also recognized in 2003 by the NASW as Nassau County Social Worker of the Year. He has also been the director of Stress Solutions of New York for more than 30 years, now with offices in New York City and Garden City, Long Island. He is also certified in both anger management, EMDR, and havening, along with being trained in domestic violence. So, welcome, Bill. Bill, tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into why you're here today.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Lisa, for having me, as well as you, Susan. It's
Thanks,
really
Bill.
a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here. Okay, so basically, I've been in private practice 36 years, and during that time, I've always been interested in providing my clients with rapid healing. And why? Because my clients come to me in heightened levels of distress. As a matter of fact, I usually say clients come to me for one or two reasons: inspiration or desperation. I could assure you that 90%, maybe 95% of my clients come for the latter. And so my goal has always been to hopefully remediate their pain as quickly as possible. And I ended up very much proceeding on that journey. And fortunately, back in 1996, I got involved in an incredibly quick acting healing approach known as EMDR. And uh, EMDR uh, ultimately became recognized as state of the art or evidence based in terms of trauma. So, indeed, it's been used for many different kinds of clientele, particularly combat veterans, um, individuals who've had a multitude of traumas, whether it's physical, emotional, sexual abuse. So it's worked, very well. And indeed, that had become the staple of my practice for many years. Uh, because of that background, it also allowed me to become the primary referral source for the Long Island Railroad. So, for example, when engineers killed people crossing the tracks, they'd be so shaken up they could no longer commandeer the train. So, because of the training that I had, they would be referred to me, and on average, it would take me 6 sessions to resolve that trauma. And indeed, I would have to sign off for them that they were eligible to return to work. I also became the primary referral source for TWA and American Airlines. So in 1996, Flight 800 crashed out east. And because of my affiliation with them, I ended up spending the whole weekend at the hangar working with the staff. And it was very emotional because the staff at TWA had been together for like a minimum of 20 years. And they knew each other intimately because when they would have layovers in Spain or wherever, um, they would live together. So the, the staff was very, very crushed. Um, and uh, I also had been the primary referral source for American Airlines. And indeed, in 2001, a couple of months after the World Trade Center tragedy, 587 crashed over the Rockaways. So I then became involved with the staff and families of American Airlines. And indeed, the with the World Trade Center tragedy, I volunteered the very next day at the Ramada Inn. So I met with people who were in the buildings, around the buildings, personally, amidst all that tragedy that year, which was just tremendous. Um, it turned out it was it was pretty exciting for me. Only exciting because I ended up being involved in so many different venues in terms of helping people. Whether I did it in terms of my private office, I was being called into corporations where the the staff had become so sad and they were really unable to perform well. And the CEOs who were, sensitive to the needs of their staff, as well as getting improved performance, they would invite me in and I would meet with them. So again, this was all courtesy of my training in EMDR. Then in 2013, a new treatment approach was developed. It's called havening. So havening is, I was very fortunate to be introduced to it by a colleague of mine who introduced me to the co-developer of it, Steve Rudin. Dr. Steve Rudin happens to be a dentist. His twin brother, Ron, is a Harvard-trained neurobiologist. And it turns out that he, in conjunction with his brother, developed havening. So this, what Ron noticed early on was that infants who were experiencing upset, such as crying, they would be able to get calmed down through the warm, soothing touch of their caregiver. So with that, he postulated that the notion of touch was critical in terms of healing. After about 15 years of research, he basically came up with a formula that encompassed touch and distraction techniques that has the uncanny ability to very much sever that trauma, from a particular part of our brain, and thereby allow individuals significant relief. So I was fortunate to be involved in the first ever training in New York City. As a matter of fact, because of my EMDR background, they gave me a scholarship to attend that, and that was in October 2013. And when we go through the training, we end up pairing off as client and therapist. And I was going through a major trauma for myself at that time. And lo and behold, when I was serving as the client, I could not believe the tremendous relief that I experienced. So then and there, I knew how powerful, how effective havening was. And I can easily say, starting that Monday going forward, I ended up using havening. And indeed, since 2013, every client that I meet with, I end up introducing them to havening because it is so incredibly quick acting. The other beautiful thing about havening, unlike EMDR, as a matter of fact, it gives the client the ability to learn it and thereby use it on their own. So I regard havening as the most effective self-emotional regulation technique there is.
Wow. Bill, can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yeah, I think I went on a little too long.
I'm just enjoying the conversation so much. You must be so proud of what you do, challenging in the same respect. But the whole time you were speaking, I'm thinking, if we're lucky enough in our lives, we don't suffer too much tragedy, or maybe none, not any horrific tragedy like some of the things that you mentioned.
Mhm.
And just to know that there are people out there like yourself that can help people that are going through this. No, we don't, regular people don't think of this on a daily basis because, we just don't need to be there, but
Yeah.
you're
So
a guy.
I'm going to give a testimonial, okay?
Mm,
Because it doesn't have to be something that recently happened. So
really?
Bill asked me whether I would like to be part of a group and a demonstration. And he asked me to think of some kind of trauma that I had had and that still sat with me and stayed with me. And the truth is that I don't remember my biological mother because I was 2. But the only thing that I associate with that is that when people leave and they're late in coming back, or I don't know where they are, or they haven't called or something, I always think that they might have died. And I've done that my entire life. And it's been like part of me. People know to just call me if they're going to be late or whatever. And
Exactly. They
and
get to know that that's your
but
little, your
but
little thing.
so Bill instructed me in this havening process. And
Wow.
since then, and it's a process that you go through, and I did it in front of the group. Since then, I've not had those feelings.
Wow.
They're gone. I just don't have them. So
Now, one thing I want to mention, and that's amazing, and that brings me back to what when you spoke about sexual abuse, right? And when you spoke about, there was another one that you mentioned. Anyway, abandonment is just one off the top of my head. These issues that can help a person later on in life.
Yeah.
These are wonderful. But another thing that stood out to me, and I'm just going to tell you this real quick, and then I want you to maybe go into a little bit about how that process works, how you unfold that. But the baby thing, when you were thinking of a toddler, and things that can happen in an instant do work. And I only know a little bit about what you're teaching and what you're talking about. But to give you an instance, I was with my neighbor's 7-month old today, 7 months, and she got hysterically cranky about something. Okay, she was just not happy in the moment with the sweat, and she does this to her mom a lot. But when she does it, you know, she might just sit there with the baby on her lap
Yeah.
and not move the baby. And the baby will continue on because the baby's in its space. So the minute this happened, I don't know what made me think, get up, picked up the baby, started talking in a much a soothing way, brought the baby over to the front door, opened the front door wide so the baby could see the cars going across it, felt the wind on her face, and like that, the emotion switched up. So I don't know if that has anything to do with what you're talking about, but I'd love to hear more.
Yeah. So, as a matter of fact, uh, I, I have I have 2 daughters, and my older one has 2 children. So, when uh, in terms of her older one, the 5-year-old, I spoke with her about havening. As a matter of fact, she's a clinical social worker like myself. So I spoke with her about havening. I showed her what to do. And indeed, she ended up applying it to her infant. So when he would get upset, she would just gently stroke his face, and inevitably he would calm down. Sometimes he would just fall asleep in her arms.
It's the energy in the room. It's the energy that
and the
you give
touch
out.
and the
So,
touch
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, I guess related to the what you're referring to as energy, when we experience a trauma, it go, it goes in at the rate of what's called 100 millihertz. Now, when we apply touch, it's very gentle and soothing, and it travels at the rate of 50 millihertz. So just by applying that touch, you're immediately serving to calm down your whole nervous system. And so it works.
So our last video that we ended with was about the bereavement process, and we were at Journey. And we did speak and refer to support groups and ways to help people in the process. So talk a little bit about what you are doing and what you are offering at this point.
Yeah. Okay. So, as a clinician, certainly I've always had a tremendous interest in terms of meeting the needs of my clients. As I mentioned earlier, I've always looked to be involved in quicker acting healing approaches. So, during this pandemic, one of the things that I look to do as a means of giving back or helping people cope better, I ended up doing lots of experiential stress reduction workshops for different groups, whether it was chambers of commerce, networking organizations, etc. And at no cost, because I really wanted to educate people and inform them that there's a very powerful, meaningful tool that they could use that would allow them to be better equipped to cope, during these times. And then in November, I decided, instead of my looking to reach out to all these different places, I would start hosting uh, these no-cost monthly experiential stress reduction workshops. So with that, that's why I invited Lisa, because each workshop I end up, providing a demonstration of havening, and Lisa was, so glad to volunteer. Mind you, she didn't even know what she was volunteering for.
It's true.
And I said, maybe you shouldn't speak so quickly.
Better be
I'm very
careful with
glad I
that,
did it.
Lisa.
Very glad I did it.
But she certainly was game. And so in each of the workshops, I provide a demonstration of havening so people could see what it's all about. And then I take the attendees through an experiential component. And the feedback I've been getting has been very, very positive, because people are able to experience relief right then and there, and thereby use havening on their own. Again, that's something that EMDR, was not able to provide. So again, in terms of meeting the needs of my clients, certainly one of the things I've been hearing more and more about is, from clients and certainly from the news, is the amount of grief and loss that all of us are experiencing. So, so with that, I've been thinking, that it would probably be helpful to form a bereavement group that would also incorporate havening. So not only would the attendees benefit from the support of others, which is invaluable in terms of groups, but they would also be beneficiaries, as they'll be experiencing havening. And I know of no other uh, treatment approach that is as quick, as effective as havening in terms of providing individuals with an emotional release. And indeed,
Bill, can I ask you a question real quick? When you think of these words, meditation, visualization, and deep breathing, are any of those incorporated into havening, or
uh,
not so much?
well, it's not meditation. Yeah, some people will say this was like meditation. It's really not. Um, is there's no deep breathing, involved. What was the third one that you mentioned?
Visualization.
Visual, definitely visualization. Yeah. So I use a lot of visualization. Uh, as a matter of fact, I would encourage you, the two of you, to come April 6th. That's going to be the launch
Let,
of.
let's show your flyer so that people see what this is, and you can explain what it's going to be. Go ahead.
Okay. So so on April 6th, I'm planning to launch this bereavement support group. And at that initial session, there would be no charge. Uh, what I plan to do is, convey to the attendees what my plan is related to the group. So the model that I'm going to be having is that I'm looking to provide twice weekly sessions over 4 weeks. So in total, it would be 8 sessions. And as far as the group itself, it would be a closed group of no more than 8 people. So my hope is to create intimacy in the group as well as continuity, you know, in the group. And as I mentioned, I'll be incorporating havening, but on April 6th. So I'll talk about that. And also, I plan to do a demonstration with someone of what havening looks like, just as you had experienced, Lisa. And then I would take the attendees through an experiential component. So again, it's at no cost, and I know the attendees will definitely benefit, just from participating, in the exercise. And hopefully people will be interested in joining.
So is there a certain amount of time period as far as loss, or is there any kind of conditions or
Prerequisites.
anything? What are the the attendees
Uh,
for this?
okay, so in terms of loss, it could be um, loss as recently as a day ago. You know, um, as a matter of fact, I asked the person who's going to be volunteering. Um, I happen to have just spoken with her today, and we were just in the course of talking, and she ended up sharing with me that her dog had died many years ago, and she still has not gotten over that loss. And she said that at that time, she did go for sessions where she met with an EMDR therapist. And, so she said, she had gotten some help. But in talking with her, I asked her, when you think back to that memory of the passing of your dog, how upsetting does it feel to you today? And she said she's at an 8 on a scale of 0 to 10. So I told her, that I would like to have an opportunity to work with her in terms of havening, and I could pretty much guarantee that that 8 will be significantly lower by the time we finish.
Okay, so
Wow,
let
this is
people know what
wonderful.
the
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask. Even if they didn't make the workshop in time, because our videos will be up on the channel for some time, how could they reach out to you? What email address can they contact you
Oh,
at, maybe?
okay. So, well, my website is stresssolutions.ny.com. And so for anybody who's interested in signing up for the workshop, they could just go to the home page, and they'll see a link that says workshop, and they would just need to click on that, and they'll be two workshops listed. One is April 14th, which is my no-cost experiential stress reduction workshop, for the month. And then the April 6th workshop pertaining to the bereavement group.
And do you have also any other way of somebody contacting you? Is there any other contact information that you want to provide?
So my email is stresssolutions.ny@gmail.com.
Great.
I also have a phone number, but I think it'll probably be easier to get me via email.
Okay.
Wow, this was such interesting and valuable information, Bill. And we can't even thank you enough for joining us today. And I'd love to know more about it myself. And I'm sure so many other people will.
Yeah, well, I hope you attend because I have to say, for me, it is so exciting. And why? Because I can literally see emotional and physical changes in my
Yes,
office, on a daily basis.
yes.
Yeah, it happened faster than I thought, especially all the years that I've always felt that way. And it doesn't feel that way anymore to me. So,
And again, Lisa was doing this in front of maybe 15 other people.
And it wasn't uncomfortable or anything like that for
no, I
you?
was lost in the process, actually.
Right. Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think before we started, Lisa had said to me, "So I'm going to be doing this in front of the whole world." and I said, as far as I know, Asia is not going to be in the ballpark.
But I guess it really doesn't matter because if this is a process that's really helping you, no matter
Yes.
what experience you may be
Yes.
going through,
Yes.
then
And
it
Bill,
doesn't matter to you who's there or
yeah,
it
it's
might
true.
be different. Sometimes it might be different if you're in a room with like a mega amounts of people. But I think this whole Zoom experience has made things a little bit easier for people because you have the comfort of your own home as well. So
Mhm.
that might be helpful.
But Bill has an unbelievable voice, an
Yeah, I
unbelievable
love it.
way.
Great
Really
tone.
just
Great tone.
really nice,
Thank you.
calming tone. I'm
I do a
really
lot of
good.
meditations, guided meditations. You'd be good for that, Bill.
And
Good hypnosis too, by the way. So,
yeah, I've done hypnosis.
okay.
But while you were saying in the comfort of your own home, I was thinking in the comfort of the sands of time.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yes, that's
In the
right.
sands of
That's
time.
right. That's
Was there
right.
anything you wanted to add before we wrap this up today, Bill?
No. I would, welcome, anybody who is experiencing any grief or loss issues to just come April 6th and check it out.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. And
Thank
if
you so much,
something
Bill.
happens and you do miss that April 6th event, you'll always have Lisa and our information right up here on the channel. And you can reach out to us and we can contact Bill and get you connected that way as well.
Yes.
Oh,
And the April 14th event as well. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
thank you,
And
Bill.
again,
Thank you so much for joining us.
and I thank you for having me. It was truly a pleasure.
It was
Thank
our
you so much,
pleasure.
Bill.
Thank you for all the
Bye-bye.
good work you do, Bill.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.